Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second Sunday of Lent, and we're talking about the Transfiguration. And there's a ton going on here, but one thing that struck me in particular was we know that Peter takes his three confidants, if you will, Peter, James, and John, up to the mountain, and he's transfigured before them. He reveals, if you will, a deeper aspect of his identity. I mean, who he is. He's both God and he's man, and so his divinity is really showing here. And this reminds us, of course, of Moses, and Moses shows up on the scene, both Moses and Elijah. But when Moses goes up on the mountain, his face is so bright that it was too much for the people to handle, right? And so that's going on here. And this is happening most likely happening during the Feast of Booths. And so that's why Peter says, well, this is great. Let's just build a tent for everyone and stay up here, right? And then once Peter says that, he doesn't really know what to say, right? They're overshadowed by a cloud. And again, this is full of Old Testament imagery, right? And there's a few places where we see this, okay? So this whole idea of being overshadowed, it's the Greek term of episkizo, right? And so when in the Old Testament, the people used to be overshadowed by a cloud, and this was God's presence, right? And it used to cover the tent of meeting, okay? Jesus's body is now the new living tent of meeting. This happens during the Transfiguration. This also happens to Mary when she is overshadowed by the Holy Spirit, okay? So this is bringing all sorts of imagery to us, that being overshadowed by the presence of God, right? And this is, like I said, during the Feast of Booths, all right? So they just want to stay there in the presence of God. And we have to think a lot of times, too, that this evokes, in my mind, especially the sanctuary, okay, the place in our church where the steps begin and where the tabernacle is. That's where we are in the presence of God, okay? And do we have that same kind of reverence? Because Peter, James, and John, right, they're on their face, right? And they don't even know what to say. Well, we have that in the church. And so we can ask ourselves some questions, kind of a Lent takeaway of what is my attitude as I'm walking into this overshadowing, into this presence of God? Do I have the right attitude coming into the church? And we can maybe change that attitude during Lent. Am I entering into silence, into this sacred silence that Peter, James, and John encounter when they're there with Jesus, with the Father, and obviously the Holy Spirit, and Moses and Elijah? Some other questions we can ask ourselves is, do I realize that this is God's presence? And does my dress, my prayer, my state of mind reflect these things? And are these things that I can improve during Lent? And do I come into God's presence during the holy days of obligation? Is this something that I take seriously, or is this just kind of a checklist mentality? So during this Lent, as we approach the table of the Lord today, and we hear these beautiful readings, and we receive Jesus in his presence, we approach this holy place. Let us ask Jesus, help me to see as Peter, James, and John saw as they approached the mountain during the Transfiguration. Help me to have that holy awe of you, so that growing closer to you and realizing your holy presence, we may grow in union with you and one day see you in heaven face to face.